We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andrew, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered, and I very potentially have some exciting Rob H. home theater news. Joe Klusnick is going to be extremely excited because
does it have something to do with Kaleidoscape? It sounds like Kaleidoscape.
There you go. Good guess, Tom. Very good guess. Yes. As you might imagine,
you may be thinking we set that up in some way. First of all, that's a terrible setup. Number one, I shouldn't have guessed it right away. Second of all, we did not. We basically we got Rob's running late, and we got right on the podcast. So yes, I just guessed it. It wasn't that hard. Go on.
Not really. Context clues. You're paying attention. Yeah. It's very good. Yeah. So yeah, as you can imagine, many existing Kaleidoscape owners are being enticed by the brand new Strato K, which means they have their previous players, just either sitting around doing nothing or being put up for sale. So yes, I've been in touch with.
Rob's got a hole money burning a hole in his pocket because he hasn't spent anything on anything in a while.
Not quite, but given the nice price on a used Strato E from a gentleman that I've gotten in contact with just down in Seattle, so we're not going to bother with shipping it across the border. I'm gonna pop down there in my car and pick it up in person. That's the plan. So hasn't happened as of this moment that we're recording, but by next week I should be able to report on it.
School started this week for my college-aged kids, so that's been my thing, basically. That, and it's been raining nonstop here in Florida, which is not unusual, but it's very annoying because this invariably what happens is it rains so much that the grass just gets out of control. And that sounds like a first world problem, and it is. But my first world problem is that we bulldozed my house over the one that flooded, so now it's just a big lot. Now it's just a big wet lot full of very long grass that I don't think my push mower is going to go through. So we're going to end up having to pay somebody to go over there and do it because I don't think we're going to. My wife's like, what are we going to do? I'm like, I don't know. I mean,
get a robot lawnmower, Tom. That's the solution to all your problems right there.
Clearly. How could it go wrong?
Right. Yes, with its literal little razor blades that they use to not actually cut the grass, but to ever so slightly trim it literally every single day. That's how the robot lawnmowers work.
I don't have anything to plug it into. I have to go hang out at my neighbor's house. There's not a house there. There's no outlets. Where do I plug it in?
Yeah, that would be an issue for the robot.
Yeah, so not a lot going on over here. I have a presentation that I'm doing for work in a couple of days, so I've been prepping for that. It's all about retirement. Which I guess is exciting for some people.
People wait and plan their entire lives for such a thing.
Yes, it's not the financial aspects of it. It's the everything else aspects of it. Which I find very interesting because there's lots of parallels to other things that happen in your life. And most people don't think about retirement like that.
Yes.
Well, they don't. They plan financially for it.
Yeah.
And then their other plan is I'm going to golf a lot, or I'm going to do this a lot, or I'm going to travel a lot. And you're like, okay, what does that look like exactly? And you realize that you can't. Some people can. Some people just get on a plane and never come home, I guess, is their plan.
Yep.
Seemingly, you will quickly find out that the United States doesn't like that. And you will no longer be considered a citizen if you don't spend a certain number of months at home living in your house. You won't be a resident anymore. So there are things to consider there, but there's also just like, you've spent 40 plus hours a week at work. And now you have no more structure to your life, and you're sitting across the table from somebody.
There definitely is the psychological side of things.
Who you really haven't spoken to about anything other than scheduling, like who's going to pick up the kids,
right?
Where are you going to be? Where am I going to be? You haven't talked about anything else in the last.
Which movie was it where I don't think it was like the literal last scene, but like close to the end, there's like the two elderly parents, and the father finally decides to retire at like age 75.
Yeah.
And the daughter, who's now like in her 40s, like finally gets her own house and moves away from the parents. And like the father turns to the mother. He's like, I guess we should get to know each other now.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So it's a little bit about that, but it's a lot about just having a more realistic thought process behind retirement, which I'm excited to talk about because it's a lot of fun for me to do these things. So what have you been doing, Rob, this last week?
This past week,
other than shopping for kalaidoscapes.
Shopping for kaleidoscapes. Yeah, that's definitely been high up on the docket there. I guess not too much activity wise. Weather wise, it has not been hot at all where I am. It's actually been on the cooler side, but it's been very, very humid. So like any tiny amount of sweat that does come from your pores, it just hangs around. It's been a very clammy, uncomfortable feeling, despite it not actually being all that hot. So hasn't been the nicest just walking around outside in the Lower Mainland area. But there you go. I'll be driving in my electric air conditioned car for several hours as I go pick up that kaleidoscape. That's what I have to look forward to.
All right. So what have you watched, Rob? Or should I go first?
Why don't you go first? You've just got one on your list.
Yeah. So last night, for whatever reason, I decided to watch, to go to Peacock and just look around, and I ended up watching The Hunting Party, which is a show, a series that got two seasons before it got canceled. So I think it was just
literally never heard of this at all. So this is completely being introduced to me fresh.
It didn't get live. TV ratings were not great for this, but apparently it's picked up on streaming. Like Netflix, I think, is streaming it, and so
this was
is
an
Peacock,
actual
obviously.
Broadcast network show.
Yes, a broadcast network show.
Literally hadn't heard about it at all.
I'm not going to watch more. I've watched the first 2 episodes last night, and I'm not going to watch another
first 2 episodes of the first season, and there's
the first
been
season,
2 seasons.
yes.
Okay.
I guess I could probably tell you who's in it, but I don't care. It doesn't matter.
I mean, is there a light premise that you could give just in case
I'll
other
give you
people
the
want to
premise.
check it out?
So the idea here is that there is a secret government prison called the Pit because they watched a Marvel movie, and
or they watched the Pit. Which is not about a prison, but
yeah. So there's a secret government prison called the Pit, and it houses serial killers that have been that everyone thinks are dead, mostly because of execution, from what I gathered so far. Okay. So they fake their deaths.
They fake the execution. Okay.
And then they put them into these prisons, this prison, and then presumably by the end of the first 2 episodes, it's revealed that there are some experiments going on in order to do things to either rehabilitate them or something. We don't really know.
They're just experimenting.
But there's some experiments that are going on.
I was thinking maybe it's like a Suicide Squad type of thing or something like that. But okay.
So that at the beginning of the first episode, there's an explosion, and They say it's from a gas leak someplace else, and it explodes, and it releases many of, not all, but many of the prisoners. And they don't know, or they're still sifting through the rubble. They don't know how many serial killers have gotten loose, but it's at least 25 by the end of one of these 2 episodes.
Oh, yeah, and, just about right for a season's worth of TV.
I know.
On a network.
Where did they ever come up with that number?
Villain of the week, it sounds like to me.
So yes, it feels like, hey, I watched The Blacklist and thought I could do something similar, but different enough that people. I mean, that's certainly how this thing was sold.
With a new guest star every week instead of just James Spader.
Yes. So there's serial killers that they're tracking down. It's a ex-CIA or FBI profiler who I don't really quite understand why she no longer is. Okay. And yet brought in for this task, apparently. Yeah, they all get put on a task force to find these people. Okay. So they find the first one because she gets on it because the first guy that they know is gone is she caught him, or she was part of the people that caught him, sort of thing.
I guess they need people they can disavow because these prisoners are not supposed to exist. They're supposed to be already have been executed. So
it's very stupid. Yeah. The whole thing's very stupid. the problem ends up being, for me at least, there's so many things that the answer to the question of why did they do that is because that's how the plot, that's how it has to happen for the plot. Like, instead of doing the obvious thing that would actually work, why are they doing this more convoluted thing that doesn't make any sense?
To pad out the running time of this show in between commercials.
Well, if not, then how can we have the big reveal?
Right.
How can we can't have the twist if this person isn't there? Like, why would you keep the person there? That's stupid. And they're like, oh, wow, that's where the twist is coming in. They have to be there for the twist. I'm like, this is bad writing.
Tom, is there a single tech person who stares at a transparent computer screen while techno music plays with neon lighting around them?
I mean, that's how I do all my writing.
but do they have the tech person? Does this show have that? Is there a team with the single tech person?
Don't worry, there is a whole there's a one of my favorite moments of the scene of this whole thing was there's like a room full of army people who are staring at screens trying to find these, scouring all the news reports and the live cams and stuff, trying to find one of the serial killers that they know. And their boss is just like, come on, we've got to find this guy. I'm like, they're literally looking at, I mean, is this motivational? Like,
hack faster, Tom, hack
like,
faster.
Have you not? They're all staring at their screens and nobody reacts. I'm like, you're terrible at your job. Like, I don't understand. Why are you there? You're just walking up and down the aisles yelling at people and not helping.
Is
like,
season 2 the whole team is just replaced by AI? Is that season 2?
I will never know. I will never know. Any premise could be good, but this so clearly, like, as much as I don't like J.J. Abrams, and I don't.
Oh, I missed the part where you said it was a J.J. Abrams, unless you just said it now.
It's not J.J. Abrams. That's what I'm telling you.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying as much as I don't like J.J. Abrams, and I don't, he gets you invested in the characters. He gets you hooked on what's going on.
He's very good at beginnings. Yes. He's very good at. Yeah.
He would have killed the opening of this thing. I mean, it would have been amazing. I would have been like, I would have been obsessed with this show by the end of 2 episodes. Obsessed with it. And at the end of 2 episodes, I'm like, none of you are smart enough to live. All of you should be dead. Like, how have you not accidentally stabbed yourself in the eye with a fork while you were eating your breakfast? Like, you were all dumb. This is dumb. So, right. I don't recommend.
Rousing recommendation for the hunting party from Tom.
I don't think any of the actors are doing a poor job. Honestly, I just think the writing is just atrocious. And I don't know how TV, like, we all like to think that TV shows and movies are all shot chronologically, right? And they're all shot,
Do we?
And then they take those shots and they put them together. And then there's the movie or the TV show, right? But that's not how it works.
No.
They'll shoot scenes out of order because they have one set. They're like, all the sets, all the things that are happening in this place are all going to be shot right now. And so there's some level of trust or faith that the actors must have in the director and the writers and stuff like that.
Yeah, just the script in general. Yeah,
the script in general. Where this is all going to make sense.
Yeah. For sure.
When they put this together, when they splice this together, this is all going to come together in a cohesive narrative that makes sense.
Yeah, like
and
when
just
they
because
shot
I don't
all the bridge scenes of Star Trek for 5 or 6 episodes all at once, and then they shoot all the transporter room scenes and then all the 10 forward scenes or whatever it is. And you just gotta hope that whatever you're saying and the tone in which you're saying it edits together properly.
Well, the director is like, no, you're more upset right now, no, you're really happy right now, or something tragic is about, you're really worried about what's happening. You have to like take that, you say, okay, well that's how I'll say it now, and then you do the thing, right? And I mean, we would like to think that these are all shot chronologically so that for the actors it makes sense. Budget. But that's not how it works. No. So these actors they go into this knowing or not knowing how the final product is going to look. Yeah. And even if on the page, they read the page and I'm like, this doesn't totally make sense, but
It's very rarely the actor's fault if a show doesn't turn out well. That's really it's like that's not the actor's.
I don't know whose fault this is.
Okay,
but something got dropped. Some way. Some.
The producers,
At some
Tom.
point,
It's easy. Just blame the producers. Nobody knows what producers do anyway, so it's the producers' fault. That's what they get paid all the money for, is for taking the blame.
So it's unfortunate because I just saw a hunting party and it whatever, and then I had no expectations going into this thing, but
apparently it's an NBC thing. If it was on Peacock,
it is an NBC thing. So I highly recommend you skip it.
Yeah, on that whole shooting chronologically thing. I mean, it was noted back when it was airing that the X-Files, like the original version of it, before David Duchovny got replaced and before it came back for its reboot or our continued legacy sequelitis that it had years later. But yeah, back when it was shooting, it was noted. It was in the newspapers actually of how unusual it was, because they did shoot the X-Files chronologically. They didn't just do all the FBI scenes all together or whatever. They actually shot every scene in the order in which it would show up on TV, and that's part of why the budget was so much higher. But back then, shooting things in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada was kind of a novel and new thing, and so the tax incentives and the price and the write-downs and everything they could do was so much less expensive than shooting in Los Angeles, because back then most shows still were being shot in Los Angeles. You didn't have everything going over to Atlanta, you didn't have everything going over to Europe, you didn't have everything coming up to Canada, so that they reduced the cost by moving out of LA back then, but then they drastically increased the cost by actually shooting every scene in chronological order, and it was notable back then. So yeah, definitely not the normal way of shooting television shows.
All right, so what did you watch?
Yes, so I have been working my way through the 4th season of Only Murders in the Building, and I've now finished that up. That, of course, I'm watching on Disney Plus. I guess it's Hulu in the States has Only Murders in the Building, but it's all merged together at this point. So it's on Disney Plus up here in Canada. It is in Dolby Vision, not in Atmos, but it is in surround sound, and so it still looks and sounds very, very good. It's I'm not going to say it's like some kind of showcase home theater thing, but it's very, very crisp and clean and high contrast, and it does look very, very nice. So I can say it's pleasing to the eyes to watch that. Now, there's been a 5th season that is already complete and available on Disney Plus now. I have not started that yet, and there is a 6th season in production, so this is by no means the end of the show. But season 4 of Only Murders in the Building is definitely my least favorite of all the seasons that have aired so far. I feel like they kind of jumped the shark in this season as far as being overly self-referential and just not taking it seriously anymore. Like the show was always humorous because you've got Steve Martin and Martin Short, and so I mean it's always been humorous, but like the first season had a lot of heart to it. And so the mystery was pretty good, and the humor was there, but it had a lot of heart to it, and they were making their little jokes and being in their humorous situations and reactions, but it was all taken seriously. And they continued that for the most part through seasons 2 and 3. And I quite enjoyed season 3. I really thought the, mock musical that was contained within the show, I thought that was really well done. I thought the songs were actually very impressive that they put on the show. I kind of wish we could have actually just watched the entire stage production. It would have been very enjoyable from all the things they put together in season 3. So that took a different approach to everything, but I still enjoyed it very much. Season 4, though, they just have lots of celebrity guest appearances. Everybody's just mugging for the camera. Everybody's overacting. I don't really know what they were thinking. It kind of felt like it went off the rails here. The mystery itself was nowhere near as compelling as the previous, although this has the most compelling victim that we've ever had. It's a victim that we have known the best and actually have some attachment to in season 4. That part of it was compelling, but I didn't feel like they actually honored that well enough. I felt that it deserved better. I thought the victim deserved better than the story that got told here in season 4. So I'm hoping they get back on it with season 5. I don't know. I haven't looked up reviews or whatever of how people have reacted to season 5, but apparently enough people watched it that they already greenlit and are in production of season 6. So I'm hoping there's a turn on. There's always going to be a season of a long running show where you're just like, that wasn't one of them has to be the weakest. And if that's the case here, then that's going to be fine. But I wouldn't say start with this one.
I feel like, and this is, you can hate me for this if you want, but it very much feels like they're playing like every season that this goes on. I'm like, really? Are they not worried that somebody's not going to make it to the next season?
Oh,
you know what I mean, the actors themselves are quite old, and I love them both, and I want them to live forever. But historically, that's not the case. So every time they're like, I'm like, I thought the first season, maybe 2 seasons, and they'd be like, okay, well, let's not have somebody pass away halfway through a season. Let's just stop it here.
Well,
I guess
okay. Selena Gomez has quite a few health problems herself, so it's
oh really? I know that.
It's not necessarily just from age. So I mean, they've actually said outright that's part of the reason why they're doing, if not exactly 1 season every year, then pretty close to it. Which for dedicated streaming services is a rarity these days. There's no 3-year gaps in between seasons. They're just like, hey, let's make hay while the sun is shining. They all feel that way, and they're all enjoying what they're doing. That is still evident, but yeah, I hope they get back to they're solving a murder here. It shouldn't all be winking and gags and mugging for the camera. Like, you put a little bit more seriousness and heart back into it, because that's a lot of what the draw was for the earlier seasons. Anyway, that was Only Murders in the Building Season 4, so not my highest recommendation for that, but we'll see how Season 5 goes, and overall I do still like the show, and I love the actors, so that's pretty much the reason why we're still watching it. So I did watch one movie this week, which was Together. That came out last year. I watched it on Amazon Prime Video. So let's see, what was it? Yeah, it was HDR10, because I didn't watch it on my Samsung, so I don't know if it was HDR10 Plus, but it was HDR10. I didn't particularly note the surround sound on this one. So I would describe this as a nice, light horror snack of a movie. The movie Together. This is starring Dave Franco and Alison Brie, and almost just the two of them. Damon Harriman is also here as sort of the third wheel. And if you're wondering kind of who's behind things, when you got 3 actors and 2 of them are your leads, and there's one other guy around. I'm not spoiling anything here. You're not even putting 2 and 2 together. You're putting 1 and 0 together.
Like
and coming up with
was it the Harrison Ford movie, What Lies Beneath? Yes, there was like Harrison Ford, the wife who clearly was the one being terrorized, right. the dead ex-wife, and then a cop that would show up every once in a while and then leave. I'm like, I mean, there's not much mystery here.
Right. But I mean, the reason it's okay in this movie Together is because it's not a whodunit. It's not a mystery like that. If you've seen any images or posters, you would have seen Dave Franco and Alison Brie, who are married in real life. Yeah, they are an actual real life couple, and so the poster image or the splash cover image is the two of them kissing, and their lower lips are like literally stuck together.
Yeah, I can see that. That's weird.
That's the thing. And so that's what's going on here. There's a little bit of body horror going on. And it's all kind of based very explicitly, because they have the third character in this movie just outright say that this is all based on, it was one of Plato's students in one of the collections of writing that we have from Plato. It's one of his students who came up with this tale of human beings when we were first created by the Greek gods. We actually had 4 arms and 4 legs and 2 faces. And then Zeus, for whatever reason, decided to split all the humans in half, and now we spend our whole lives looking for our other half. That's the story. That's the old Greek philosophical story that all of this is a play on, and of course, as you can imagine, taking it to the physical manifestation of this idea of finding your other half and physically rejoining together so that you have 4 arms and 4 legs and 2 faces once again, the way that we were originally created before Zeus split us apart. So I mean, all of that is just stated explicitly, and it's done for body horror effect. But like I say, I'm calling it a nice light snack of horror, because it doesn't go particularly gruesome. It doesn't go like really, really into it. You've got Dave Franco and Alison Brie, who are both, comedic actors in a lot of the things they do, and they bring a lot of that. They are very charming. They work very, very well as a believable couple that's been together for a while and is, kind of pondering what their next steps in life are going to be, and whether they're going to break up or whether they're going to get married. They haven't gotten married at this point, the characters in the movie, that is. And so, yeah, they stumble across this supernatural well, and for whatever reason that begins the body horror process of them truly becoming together. But yeah, like I say, it doesn't go like crazy into the gruesomeness and the full-on horror. There are a few jump scares. There is some body horror. There's actually some strangely very slight out of place nudity that I really wasn't expecting the way the rest of the tone of this movie went. Felt kind of like, oh, that just all of a sudden, all right, for a brief amount of time. Directed and written by Michael Shanks. And there was actually, after I watched this, I found out some a little bit of controversy about this movie, because apparently this was produced by Dave Franco and Alison Brie with their small production company that they had. They were the money behind this movie. And apparently there was a writer, and I think the movie actually got made, like a really, really tiny budget, like back in 2020, pitched them basically on this concept, and then in 2025 they make this movie without any credit to that person who pitched them this concept.
Yeah, that unfortunately happens too often.
Yeah, it's all been vehemently denied and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't know any of that going in there. So yeah, I guess I would say thumbs in the middle. I don't dislike this movie. I did find parts of it kind of charming. I found the performances very believable by the two lead actors. But I just, like, I wanted it to either be cleverer as a metaphor or as a retelling of the old Greek myth idea. I either wanted it to be more clever or more subtle. I didn't want them to just say, here is the myth that we were telling. Like, okay, thanks. Don't make me think or look up anything. And then, you know, kind of played it all very literally. I was looking for a bit more nuance. I was looking for some more subtlety. I was looking for a bit more cleverness, and none of that's really there. So it survives pretty much entirely on the charm of the actors. They definitely are, like, they elevate. You know, if this had been two completely inexperienced actors, I don't know if it would have, it probably would have been a thumbs down for me. So they do elevate this. But yeah, it's a very thumbs in the middle for the movie together from me. But if you're in the mood for, like, I want to watch a horror, but I don't want anything too disturbing. I want to be a little bit disturbed. I want, like, a couple of mild jump scares, and I want to kind of smile at the charm of the two lead actors. Then there you go. That's what Together is.
Okay. I will tell you, so you made me think of something. I was listening to someone talk about the changes in how movies are made over the years. And one of the things they said is that the current audience is specifically younger people, younger than you and I, do not react negatively to gratuitous nudity.
Sure.
Like in our day, or at least in my day, I'm a little bit older than you. In my day, 2/3 of the way through a Terminator movie, someone was getting naked.
Oh, definitely.
And they were having sex. Didn't make any difference. That made no sense. that they were sometimes, like, in a ditch, on the side of a road, and they're just, like, been running through God knows what, trying to get away from this Terminator. They're just going to stop for a second, quickly have sex, and then go on. Which is nuts. It was, and it was kind of a running joke for a long time.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Sort of thing. But there was like, we have to put the nudity in there. We have to do it. It's just sort of the thing. I did not really realize that wasn't happening as much anymore. But now, as I think back to movies that have been coming out, I'm like, it hasn't. And you know what? That's better. Like, it never really made any sense.
I don't mind nudity whatsoever in movies. What the reason I commented on in this is because it either needed to be a much longer scene or not there at all. It was so brief and completely not in the tone of the rest of the movie that I was like, so why?
Well, I think that's the point, though. That's the point. Like, that's what was happening before. It was like, okay, we're gonna do a sex montage scene with the body doubles in here to do it, because we're not gonna pay the actor to do it, and they don't want to do it. So we're gonna have the body doubles come in and have it all in the dark and with silhouettes and lights, backlighting and stuff like that, and it would go on for like just a long enough uncomfortable time that sitting next to your parents.
That's exactly it.
In that movie theater, like, looking over them going, I'm not looking at the screen.
That's the charm of it. That's exactly the amount of time they were aiming for. They knew what they were doing.
So it's interesting to hear you say that. You're right. As long as it serves the plot. as long as it serves a plot, fine, that makes sense. I'm thinking of Forgetting Sarah Marshall, where
Sure.
he gets broken up with and he comes out of the shower or whatever naked, and it's hilarious because it's uncomfortable. But
this I'm like, they're a married couple. They've been having their ups and downs. Married couple having sex is not going to be unusual. Like just have the scene or don't. It was a weird. It was just kind of like what? It was almost used to like jump scare effect. It was like, except that absolutely wasn't the point. I don't know. It felt very strange for the rest of the movie. It was out of place.
Right. All right. Well, this is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. Get your questions answered. All you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. You come to the website, find our shows, our show notes, our previous episodes, as well as links to any products or articles that we reference in any of those episodes. And each episode has a link to a Flickr album that you can click on to follow along with the pictures that people send us with their questions. You can find us at facebook.com/AVRant podcast, youtube.com/AVRant, where you can see our live recording sessions. Those images that are on the Flickr album will be embedded in that video for now.
That's right.
Until they decide to take us down for whatever reason.
That's the links. It doesn't seem to be the images.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that the video might not be there.
True.
All right, contact Rob directly. Rob@avrant.com. His socials is @FirstReflect. I'm Tom at avrant.com. I'm not doing the socials these days.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank our listeners of the week. To become a listener of the week, support the podcast in some way. One of the ways you can do that is going to avrant.com, click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and that will take you to a PayPal donation site where you can use your PayPal account or your credit card. We never see any of that information. And you can send us a PayPal donation. We had one person do that this week. That was Bill. So thank you very much, Bill.
Excellent. Bill, thank you very much for that PayPal donation. We very much appreciate the financial support.
And Bill did leave a note with his PayPal donation, which you can do. It says, I'm a Patreon, which we'll talk about in just a second. But every now and then, I think you guys deserve a bonus. So thanks for the great show. Really appreciate the sensible approach to all things AV. So thank you, Bill, for that.
Thank you very much, Bill. That's very nice of you to say.
And like I said, if you want to support us monthly and don't want to have to think about it, you can go to patreon.com/AVRant podcast to sign up to become a monthly contributor. A minimum of $1 a month, so $12 a year. It's pretty cheap. We'll get most of that money, and we have currently 119 patrons, including, obviously, Bill. So thank you very much to all our patrons.
Yeah, once again, that is patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So big thanks to our 119 patrons over there. Bill, thanks for being one of them.
Yeah. So if you, we also got some notes of gratitude from people who are just happy the podcast is still going on. Michael says, stay safe to Rob regarding the ongoing wildfires in BC or British Columbia, for those of you who don't think that he's in the past. Last year was really bad for Newfoundland, with one of the really big fires being only 45 minutes away from where Michael lives. He and his wife were fortunate that they did not have to evacuate, but they certainly had their go bags ready. Scary stuff.
Yeah.
Karl and Anonymous. Anonymous enjoyed our interview with Michael Cobb from Kaleidoscape, finding it interesting and informative. So thank you, Michael, Karl, and Anonymous.
Yes, I'll say the names one more time. We got Michael, Karl, and Anonymous. Thank you very much for those notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really do appreciate them. A big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in their questions. And yes, thank you very much, Michael, for looking out for me. That's very nice of you. Yeah, it's been all right. But yes, we did have that one event there. What was it, last week or the week before? Yeah, getting unusually close to the Lower Mainland. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Thank you.
Yeah. In the news, details are scarce, but Aperion Audio has teased a new speaker series that will be launching soon. The new Fons, F-O-N-S. That
would be a Z, but yeah.
Who's getting that reference?
Oh, yeah.
Who's getting that reference? The new Fons series from Aperion is a smaller, more affordable collection of slim, on-wall speakers that borrows much of the design philosophy from the Theatris series, but is targeted at small to medium room sizes. We don't have prices, specs, or release date yet, but because we never talk about Aperion, we decided to put this here, even though there's no news on it. But we do have model numbers, and there are 4 of them. The F85S, F83S, F63S, and FC62. So we're looking at 8 No, what would the 8.5, 8.3, 6.3? I would think that would be the 8 and the 6 would be the woofer size, but maybe not. Yeah, well, who knows? 8 seems big for an on-wall speaker, but the FC is clearly the center channel. And those go along with Aperion's splash page image of the 4 new models, so we can put 2 and 2 together and guess what we're looking at. The F85S with dual 8-inch bass woofers, dual 3-inch mid-range drivers, and a small folded ribbon tuner. Let me click on.
You can click on the thing, and you'll see the image that we're talking about. And I'm showing you could look at the StreamYard. I've also got it up there.
I could, but I'm not going to. Oh, they have the tweeters. It's folded in a small folded ribbon tweeter. So it's a dual 8-inch, dual 3-inch mid ranges, and
I don't know for sure that those are 8-inch, but I'm just approximating because the mid-range looks around the same size as the Theatrix mid-range, and that would make those woofers about 8 inches if I'm eyeballing that correctly. So I think that's what's going on here.
It does look that way. It's like an MTM design on the mid-range and tweeter there, so that'll control directivity a little bit. It's interesting.
It would on that one,
yeah. The F83S with a single 8-inch woofer, single 3-inch mid-range driver, and the same folded ribbon tweeter. So you're losing one mid-range and one woofer as well. We think that looks. I could see that, but that woofer looks bigger than the other ones. But that's probably something else.
I think it's a mock-up image. So
yeah. The F63S drops down to a single 6.5-inch woofer, and the FC62 is a wedge-shaped 2-way design with a single. Oh, it's not a center channel.
It's not.
A single 6.5-inch woofer and the folded ribbon tweeter. No dedicated mid-range driver. Let's look at this one. I have to look at it. Oh yeah, it looks just like. It just looks like all the rest of them.
It looks like all the other wedge-shaped speakers.
All the wedge-shaped speakers.
FC for Fons ceiling, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know.
That's about all I could guess is what the C stands for. What else could C be for that shape of thing?
Conical? That doesn't seem right.
It's really not that.
Maybe.
I'm going to say it's for ceiling.
So these... In particular, the bigger ones really feel like you could mount them horizontally or vertically.
Definitely, yes.
The other ones feel like with the single mid-range tweeter woofer, the mid-range is above the tweeter, so there is still kind of that sonic horn almost. I know it's really not a horn, but what's their name? RBH used to do that with their multiple tweeters in order to wave form
nested array, but yeah. It's not
this
really
MTM sort of design, where it's really MTW design, might make it a little bit more flexible when it comes to horizontal placement as well. I'm not sure. I don't know. It feels interesting. Usually with the folded ribbon tweeters, they're a little sensitive to whether or not they're horizontal or vertical.
They definitely are. Yeah, they typically have wide horizontal dispersion, but narrow or vertical. However, these folded ribbon tweeters are nearly a square in shape. If they're taller than wide, it's only by a very small amount. So if we go to the Theatrix series, several of those models are like dual 8-inch, dual mid-range drivers, a folded ribbon tweeter. But the folded ribbon tweeter in the Theatrix series is definitely physically larger, at least eyeballing it from the image that they provided there. And then the cabinets are larger with more internal depth. And I'm guessing these look like a sealed design. I don't know. Maybe there's a port on the bottom or something.
They could have ports on the bottom or the top or both.
So it definitely looks like the largest of the Fons series, the F85S, is like a bit of a shrunken down Theatrix, and then the other ones are definitely a bit smaller. So they're just targeting this at not quite as high output, probably not quite as high sensitivity. Those would be my guesses.
These have prices.
Do they have prices? Where?
They do on my screen, yeah.
Oh, maybe that's brand new this morning.
The F85S dual 8-inch slim on-wall LCR speaker is $899.
Okay.
USD, I guess that's one.
I'm guessing that's each,
Yeah. The F83S single 8-inch slim on-wall speaker is $649. The F63S single 6.5-inch slim on-wall speaker is $499. And the FC62, it's ceiling. 2-way 6.5-inch ceiling /height/surround speaker for a pair is $749.
Okay.
Let me click on one of these. Let's see what happens if I click on it. If I can go inside. Oh yeah, you can go inside. Is there a?
Do you want to share your screen? Are you able to do that type of stuff?
Probably, but do I want to? No, I don't. We're doing fine.
We'll have the link to the Fons series. You can go and check them out for yourselves, folks.
They are showing this dual 8-inch one on its side, and and the tweeter is not rotated. So, meaning that it doesn't look like they've rotated the tweeter. So those fins are going side to side. So they are leaving that in that same orientation. So they're definitely showing it on the side.
At those prices, they're about 3/5 to 3/4 of the price of the Theatris series for, like, if we're talking similar woofer sizes. So yeah, definitely a lower price going here for the Fons series versus the Theatris.
Oh, what is that?
I don't know what you're looking at.
I know. I don't know what I'm looking at either. They have holes in the like a diamond shaped.
That might be the Visa mount thing that they allow for.
Yeah,
you can do a Visa
here
mount.
It is. Yeah. So there's 1, 2, 3. So there's four holes in like a diamond shaped pattern. One that towards the top of the speaker, one towards the bottom of the speaker, one dead center in the middle of the speaker, and the what you call it, the terminals are offset below it. I'm trying to see if it has anything.
This must be a geolocated fence thing, because I'm still not accessing it on from Canada looking at this site, and apparently Tom is seeing information I'm not seeing.
I'm looking. I have all kind of stuff about the Fons ultra slim minimalist design, easily wall mountable or recessed. Series flexible compatibility across models. It doesn't say anything. Vertical and horizontal installation provides users with more. Yep. Grill with guide socket. It just means holes.
It just means holes. It's not magnetic attached. We can see where the grills are going to poke in.
Sealed cabinet. Let's look at these. Let's look at these other ones real quick. Okay, go back.
You got to try and share your screen, Tom. This is crazy.
I don't
can't
remember how to do this. How do I do this? Okay, hold on. How do I do this? Is this it right here? Share screen?
Yep.
Sharing screen was okay. Don't show these tips again. Okay, share screen. And I want to share.
This is a great podcast.
This one. Share.
All right, let me see what I got here. Okay, let me add this in. There we go. Yep, it's up there on the StreamYard. Hooray.
All right, so this is the single 8.5-inch woofer thingy here. Let's just scroll down because it's just as informative here.
Okay.
I'm looking to see if it's going to be on its side. So the 3-way design, slim sealed cabinet. So these do not have, and I don't see anything. Yeah, this one is. You see, and these are the diamond thing. Right
okay,
there.
yeah, no, that goes with their Aperion mount that they have. That's the option there. So you'll be able to mount them horizontally or vertically. They've got their nearly flush mount that they supply for their speakers.
So they're not showing this one in the horizontal.
Okay,
so this
but
is
I'm guessing
not
the F85 will show up in that.
So the other one here, 85, it was showing it in the horizontal. So. It's currently sold out. It's out of stock.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, on my Canadian version of the website, they don't even have prices and all of this information listed. Or
so
else
you can see
I
here, this
they sure do.
This is horizontal.
Yeah. So you get a vertical mid-range tweeter, mid-range stack when you turn that that F85S horizontally.
There you go.
8-inch paper cone woofers. Okay. I mean, I was pretty good about guessing the sizes from the model names.
You did a good job.
Yeah,
Look at vertical and horizontal.
There it is.
You can laid down
all the options.
All of the options. What about if you want to put it at it? And here's the frequency response down to 65 hertz with this 4 ohm impedance.
Sounds
very
good.
high sensitivity.
Yeah.
84 dB sensitive.
I think that's 2 dB lower than the Theatris series, which would be makes sense.
So there you go.
Okay, so those are still pretty darn high output capable. Is there a power handling on there?
Yeah. Max peak power is 600 watts. It's 20 to 300 watts.
I'm not going to say these are small to medium room only then. This can definitely handle a large room. Maybe not a THX Dominus size room, but this can definitely handle a large room. If you got 600 watts peak power handling, I mean, so that's 4 ohms. So, okay, let's cut that in half. But even so, 300 watts into 8 ohms with 94 dB sensitivity. I'm assuming that's in room and mounted on the wall. So we can probably subtract perhaps as much as 6 dB from that. But even so, that would still make them 88
SPL is 119 dB. So
yeah, I'm assuming that's 1 meter with it mounted on the wall in a room. But still, yeah, that's a realistic scenario for how you're going to use this speaker. So yeah, you can definitely get 4 meters away from these speakers. So that's beyond just medium room as the max size. Yeah, they're being conservative, I would say.
26 inches tall, 11 inches wide, and 5.1 inches deep, not including the mount, or not including the grills either.
Yeah.
So
probably 6 inches by the time you put on their very slim wall mount and maybe the grill. Yes, nothing out of place there.
Let's go look at this. Let's look at the smallest one. We don't care about that.
I'm gonna keep that in my back pocket because I am always on the lookout for not just on-wall speakers, which I'm always on the lookout for, but on-wall speakers that can actually handle a decent room size without costing an arm and a leg, because that's not the easiest thing to find. And I've really liked recommending the Theatris series for people who have larger rooms but need the price to be reasonable but need the high sensitivity. This is going to be more reasonable for a lot of other room sizes.
So this is the smallest one, though. Whatever the smallest one, the 6.5 inch woofer.
F63S.
80 hertz extension at -3 dB, 4 ohms, 90 dB sensitive, which is still pretty good.
Yeah.
112 dB max SPL and 150 watts with a 300 watt peak. So cut those in half.
So that's more of your 8 to 10 foot speaker if you want full cinema reference volume. But that makes sense in a lot of sidewall placements as surrounds, doesn't it? So
yeah. And these are 16.1 inches high, a little over 9 inches wide, and 4.5 inches deep.
Oh, okay, even slimmer.
So these would be good for your surrounds. Yeah,
we've had people asking, like, I need some surrounds I can mount on my wall that I don't want sticking out. I don't want anyone bumping their heads on it, but I actually need a little bit more capability or a lower price. What were these, $500 each? All right. Yep, these are definitely going in the back pocket. I'm going to be recommending these without question at some point.
We never really talk about, there you go, turn that off.
I mean, that's
never really talk about Aperion. It's a shame.
It's not quite as much as we ought to talk about Ascend, but, Aperion does come up.
How do I stop sharing? Oh, I did.
Yes, that's right. It's done. We had a little black screen there for a while.
Yeah, that's all right.
We're just a polished machine over here.
We're a polished machine. All right, some comments from our listeners. We
didn't get the other bit of news.
There's more news?
A second news story.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I just saw the A and went, that's the same one.
Now, we did talk about Aperion, and I mentioned Ascend Acoustics. This is a very similar sounding name, but this is a completely different company from those two.
All right. Ascendo, which is the Walmart version of Ascend.
It really isn't. It's the much, much more expensive version.
It sounds like it, though. It sounds like that. Like when you go and you get your cereal in a bag instead of a box. Yes. That's what it sounds like.
Nope. Other way.
Ascendo will have a big presence at CEDIA as always, and this year they're introducing a whole new speaker technology. We can do our best to speculate about how it works, but we're not going to pretend to fully understand how it potentially achieves the bold claims that Ascendo is making about it. So I'll have to click on this one because maybe I have more information than Rob again.
It's very possible, yes.
Knows. So the new Panoramic Surface On-Wall speaker uses a single full-range composite radiating surface. In terms of looks, it's just a big, flat, rectangular panel that we might expect to be a bass driver, but Ascendo claims it can deliver unusually wide, nearly 180-degree, even dispersion all the way up to 20 kilohertz. The form factor of the entire speaker is quite compact, slim, and easily wall-mountable, using just the keyhole mounts. And Ascendo says it is designed and intended to work when positioned near walls and or ceilings while reducing the SBIR, which is the
speaker boundary interface,
whatever thing, and comb filtering effects. Furthermore, they claim this new full-range driver design manages to radiate sound in such a way that the volume is not drastically different when you sit close to the speaker versus farther away. So when the Panoramic Surface On-Wall is used as a surround speaker, you don't have to worry about the seats closest to the side walls, as the speakers positioned closest to those seats won't sound way louder than any of the other speakers or the other seats, as like a typical speaker would. We'll have to keep our eyes peeled for more information and some technical description of how it actually works. Let me look at this thing.
Yeah, so the the whole thing of being able to sit close or far and not having the volume change by approximately 4 to 6 decibels for every doubling of volume, which is the typical rule that we use. Outdoors, you'd be 6 decibels quieter for every doubling of distance. Indoors, where there's some reflections reinforcing the sound, it's usually closer to about 4 decibels for every doubling of distance. But the whole thing of the volume not changing very much at all as you move farther away or closer, that is something that line arrays or those speakers that have like a huge long line of small dome drivers that are often in sort of a mildly curved cabinet, that is something that's been achieved before. So just the notion that basically a long, flat, high-frequency driver is able to achieve that same sort of thing of the volume not changing very much with distance. That part I can wrap my head around. That's not super surprising. But how you get a big, flat, rectangular driver to play high frequencies without beaming, they're claiming close to 180-degree wide dispersion. I'm like, I don't know how that happens. I would need somebody to explain that to me.
I mean, how is it, an even flat frequency response all, throughout whatever range they're saying it's going to be?
I mean, I can't imagine that this is like working as a voice coil and this is just the surface of a typical voice coil moving back and forth. None of that would make sense. There's got to be more going on. There's got to be like maybe it's akin to LG and Sony. They have that technology behind their OLED panels where you have little actuators and the OLED, the physical screen of your display becomes the speaker itself. I'm thinking it's got to be something closer to that kind of technology. But that's just my guess. That's pure speculation, just based on what I know of other existing technologies.
Well, it doesn't look like it has like parts. It just looks like one flat driver, and you can see the rubber, where the rubber surround would be embedded behind it, sort of thing. So it doesn't look like there's different parts of it that are doing like tweeter versus mid-range.
I mean, they're claiming it's a single driver that is full range. So I'm guessing there's got to be little actuators back behind there. That's my speculation on how this could potentially work. But yeah, the notion of having a big, long, like unusually long for a high frequency driver, not having the volume change with distance, that part makes sense. That's the way line arrays and those stacked dome tweeters in a curved cabinet, they can all achieve that thing. That's with a whole bunch of calculated sound wave interference. That's how you come across that. But if you have, say, a stack of actuators behind this thing, sort of, it's almost like flicking it from behind like that in the correct sequence, in the correct timing, then you could achieve a similar thing. So I that's my speculation, my guess on how that would work.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Once again, comments. We got a correction from Sasi. Last week, Michael in Newfoundland asked about potentially getting a WiiM Amp Ultra and then using 3 of WiiM's wireless speakers to expand to an all WiiM 5.1 setup. Rob said it would only work if Michael were to use the WiiM bar, which is a sound bar, as his front 3 channels, and that you couldn't just use a wireless WiiM speaker as a dedicated center channel paired with a WiiM Amp Ultra. But Rob was wrong.
I was dead wrong about that.
Perhaps Rob was getting WiiM mixed up with Sonos.
A little bit of that. I kind of made the assumption that they were doing the same thing that Sonos was doing. And in the case of Sonos, I am correct. You do need to use their sound bars to create a surround sound setup. But in the case of WiiM, they're doing something different, more than what Sonos can offer you.
So when it comes to the WiiM or WiiM products, both the WiiM Amp Ultra and the WiiM Amp Pro give you the options of selecting another WiiM device as a dedicated center and additional WiiM devices as dedicated surrounds. Furthermore, since both the WiiM Amp Ultra and Pro provide an RCA subwoofer output, you are not restricted to using their WiiM wireless sub. So you can put together a 5.1 setup using your own choice of passive front, left, and right speakers, plus your own choice of subwoofer, and then have wireless WiiM speakers acting as the center and surrounds. I would still be a little bit worried about delay, but I'm sure that's fine.
You can. Oh, actually, they have a whole thing in the setup to deal with the delay as a system, so that it's all synchronized correctly. That they've thought of that, and that is part of their setup in their app. And then you can actually use passive speakers of your choice as the center and surrounds, because you can connect to other WiiM Pro or WiiM Pro, WiiM Amp Pro or WiiM Amp Ultra. You can connect to other WiiM devices besides just their wireless standalone speakers and use it that way. So yeah, very, very flexible setup that you can do for a 5.1 setup, whether that's using WiiM's own speakers or speakers of your own powered by WiiM amplifiers.
So as far as EQ, no, I didn't skip anything, did I?
Nope.
No, I didn't. Okay, as far as EQ and room correction goes, WiiM Amp Ultra provides manual 10-band graphic EQ and a 10-band parametric EQ that gets stored input by input. And they also have their own room fit automatic EQ program that can use your phone's microphone to take measurements, or you can plug in something like a UMEC 1 and using an adapter. And there's some images here on the website, whatever, or Flickr album. So just like Michael asked about, it can be a genuine 5.1 solution. It does have some limitations, though. It can't do Atmos, and it only decodes in Dolby Digital 5.1. Mm-hmm. So you're not getting all the bells and whistles, but it's a lot more capable than what Rob said about it last week. So that will be corrected for future.
Yes, no, I was happy to learn about that. Thank you very much, Sasi, for the correction on that. I missed that and overlooked it. So, yeah, it's quite a bit more capable. But yeah, I still will say, actually, there is an Atmos solution in WiiM, and that is the one that requires their WiiM bar, their sound bar. The sound bar that they sell is a 3.0.2 channel sound bar that includes 2 upward firing drivers. So if you want to have an Atmos setup in WiiM, that will require the bar, at least for now. Who knows? Maybe they'll be able to update firmware update or something like that and add even more capability to the Amp Ultra and the Amp Pro. But for now, yes, Atmos capability is that. And then as far as I could see, who knows, maybe I'll get corrected again, but as far as I could see, I wasn't seeing any DTS support in there. It was all Dolby Technologies.
Yeah. Joe Klusnick, regarding Alan's question last week about wanting theater recliners with armrests and cup holders, but not wanting a fixed armrest in between every seat and not wanting leather. So Joe liked our suggestions, but he wanted to mention that in the custom installer world, there are companies such as Fortress Seating that do fully custom builds. So there are a lot more options if you know exactly what you want and can spec out your demands to have your seats custom made for you. Mm-hmm. Seats like that are going to cost more than mass-produced models, of course. So keep that into in consideration.
It wasn't actually explicitly said by Alan that he wasn't willing to spend, I'm going to say, significantly more. I've seen some of the Fortress seating prices, and we're up into the $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 per seat for the custom ones. So, for even 3 of them, you're over 10 grand in a hurry. And actually, along those lines, a company that is very popular and does, I don't know if it's full out mass produced, but is, a little bit closer to mass produced than fully custom, Valencia. They do have some options that are non-leather as well, but they're up in price. I'm showing Canadian prices at $4,100 a seat. So that's going to be closer to around, $2,700 to $3,000 per seat. $2,700 to $3,000 per seat in U.S. prices, but nevertheless still considerably more expensive than the $3,000 for all 3 seats or $2,700 for all 3 seats that I mentioned from HT Market last week. But yes, there definitely are other options, and of course, going fully custom, you can get exactly what you want, but you're going to have to pay more for it.
Yeah. Let's get to some questions here. Leighton has continued to change the acoustic treatments in his home theater, and while he'd still describe it as a dry room and compared to an untreated room, he says it's nearly a complete redesign from where he started, and it's noticeably more reverberant now, and that's in a good way, because it was very dead before. If you remember, this is the room that had like a jillion treatments,
and he starts showing some images
to us asking if he should put in
more
yep. But some diffusion on top of it or something. I don't remember, something like that. Anyways, the tone of voices sound more natural and convincing now, and there's a greater sense of envelopment. He's getting accustomed to the new sound of his room. It's almost as though all of the industry guides saying to target decay times of around 200, 300 milliseconds kind of knew what they were talking about. Yeah, not everything is right out there, but things like that are. To that end, he's got a couple more scatter plate faces on the way that he's going to add to a couple more GIC 244 panels in his room. He's going to rewrap the last remaining brown color panels so that all of the panels will be black. He snapped some new photos, but there will be a couple more changes to come, and then new room EQ wizard measurements to go over in the not too distant future. So it still looks like there's a ridiculous number of panels in here, but compared to where he started,
speakers.
This is, and speakers. Like I didn't even know where all the speakers were to begin with. These speakers are very close to each other,
yes.
Some of them. But does he have lights on top of his panels?
It sure looks that way. That's the only thing I can figure. Yeah.
So he's got a ceiling panel and somehow he's mounted lights to it.
Possibly coming through
I don't know.
Maybe it's coming through because I mean we're getting the glare from the photograph, so that light might be bleeding out, and so those lights might be coming through the gap in between 2 foot by 4 foot. But I'm gonna say I like the look of this ceiling a lot better. It's so much less busy. I might find it a bit distracting with the way it was originally set up. So I think this setup is much nicer looking, just aesthetically. Obviously, you're not staring at your ceiling when you're watching a movie, but nevertheless, sometimes you catch it in peripheral vision. So I think it looks a lot better. And yeah, I mean, main thing is he's happy with the sound that have changed, and our advice did not lead him astray. Hooray.
Good. So one other change he has made was to run Odyssey via the Odyssey Editor app, and he's decided to curtain off the EQ, so it's only playing EQ from 300 hertz on down and not touching the frequencies above 300 hertz anymore. I imagine it wasn't doing much up there anyways, to be honest.
It very often doesn't. It very often gets your multiple mic positions and goes, well, if I take this frequency down, it's going to make it go down in one location, but go up in another. And, it's inconsistent from seat to seat because higher frequencies get much more directional. And very often, Odyssey is just kind of leaving most of that alone by default anyway. I mean, it's going to make corrections if it thinks that it can, but very often just because there are differences from mic location to mic location, it ends up doing very little in the mid-range and treble.
Yeah. So he's using a Denon X6700H, and he's watched some further videos about making manual adjustments to the settings after having run the Odyssey Editor app this way. Those videos note that if you just play the Denon's internal test tones from the trim level settings menu, it doesn't include the curtained off version of the Odyssey correction, so it can throw off your trim level measurements if you're trying to adjust things manually. Why would you try to adjust things manually at this point? I don't know why you're adjusting your trim, but okay, maybe you'll explain it to me here. It was suggested that you could use external test tones instead, so that way your Odyssey Editor app corrections will all remain in place. But he's never done things that way before, so could we slowly glide him through the process? Sure. Don't. I don't know why you're doing this.
You know how much he likes to take RubyQ wizard measurements and confirm everything. And yes.
I mean, it isn't RubyQ when you put it through, isn't the Odyssey doing its thing to the RubyQ? Do you need to do anything?
This is exactly going to be the solution. I'm going to suggest to you that what you use as your external pink noise generator or sweep tone generator is RubyQ Wizard itself, which he's obviously familiar with doing for taking the measurements, but you can have it just play steady state pink noise. You can tune the pink noise. Technically, it wouldn't be pink noise anymore, but you can tune exactly what the combination of frequencies are that it plays. Now, there is going to be one limitation, which is that you're not going to be able to do a full 9.4.6 Atmos configuration from RubyQ Wizard running on your computer and literally have that output via HDMI so that you can go to every single channel, but you can do 7.1. Right. So you can definitely have a 7.1 multi-channel configuration is just coming out as 8-channel PCM from RubyQ Wizard. You do typically need to download some drivers in order to do that, so that it will communicate properly with your computer's HDMI output and not just revert to regular 2-channel PCM sound, which is so far the measurements we've seen have been left and right. So I think that's what he's been using. So there is a driver to download to make sure it can output uncompressed PCM. But yeah, then RubyQ Wizard can be your source tone generator. That way, you can confirm via the RubyQ Wizard's SPL meter, because it has an SPL meter built into the software. You can confirm that what RubyQ Wizard is responding as the sound pressure level matches your external sound pressure level meter as a beginning calibration. And then you'll know when you say, hey, play back this pink noise or this sweep or this chirp or whatever test tone you want to play that back at 75 dB. It's actually going to be 75 dB coming out as far as the signal goes, and then you'll be able to measure back into RubyQ Wizard itself through your measurement microphone. Exactly what sort of trim level is coming back when you said, hey, that's the signal to play. Here's the master volume level that I've set on my Denon AV receiver, and here is what the microphone picked back up at the measurement location. Do all of those things match up to whatever levels that I want. Yes, when you're dealing with a target curve that you have crafted yourself, when you are applying EQ to the bass below the room's transition oscillation frequency, or in this case, it might be ever so slightly beginning above it at 300 hertz, but basically the bass alone is what you're correcting. When you play the regular internal test tones, it doesn't have, say, a bass boost or a bass cut that's been applied by that EQ when you're just using the Denon's built-in test tones. So you might be off by a decibel or two when you look at it on your external SPL meter. Yes, he likes to painstakingly go through this stuff, so you can do it all through Room EQ Wizard. That's the good news. And Room EQ Wizard themselves have a fully up-to-date help section and guide. They can point you to exactly what drivers you need, audio and HDMI drivers you need to download, and from there you can output to at least the 7.1 configuration. If you want to, fully get into, I've got front wides, I've got overhead speakers, I want to make sure all of those do well, you can do a little fudging with that, right? You can start connecting speaker wires to other channels temporarily to get the measurement, to see if that, all lines up exactly the way you want. And then there's a little bit of fudging, a little bit of guesswork on your part, but you can get pretty darn close to full confirmation that way. So yeah, you don't have to use any disk or different site or anything like that. It's all there in Room EQ Wizard for you.
There you go. Dale. First up, Dale went ahead and found the continuous audio connection setting in his Apple TV 4K. After advice to him last week, he turned it off, and his upmixing options all returned, so that problem has been fixed. Huzzah.
There it is. I'm still surprised I haven't seen all the short form YouTube. Where are all the influencers talking about this? I'm waiting for it. Am I going to have to do it? I'm not going to. I'm never putting up a YouTube short.
All right. So we talked about his small 10 by 11 foot enclosed spare bedroom, quote-unquote, theater setup. Mm-hmm. He mentioned how he isn't entirely happy with the 3 B&W speakers he's using across the front right now, but we were mistakenly under the impression that the front left and right speakers are towers. Did we see these pictures before? We did not, right?
We did not see the pictures before, and he gave me model numbers, and when I looked them up, it said they were towers. So something went awry in the communication between model numbers and what I was able to look up there.
So they are actually bookshelf speakers, and then his wall-mounted surrounds are still the SVS Prime satellites. Mm-hmm. So, okay.
There they are.
They are.
Some Prime satellites mounted flush onto his side walls. I'm eyeballing it that they're just ever so slightly behind the back of his seat there. And this is a small enclosed rectangle of a room with some white walls.
It is. Mm-hmm. So I said I was okay with Dale's thought of getting some SVS Ultra Evolution series speakers to go across the front, but we stressed that he should acoustically treat his room first. Maybe he won't dislike his current B&W speakers as much as after doing the treatments. Mm-hmm. And Rob suggested either SVS Prime speakers or Ascend Acoustics Signature SE2 speakers. But now that we know his front left and right speakers are not towers, will we reconsider any of our suggestions from last time? What's the way to get improvement in audio quality he's looking for? Treat the room.
Yeah, I mean, now that we are seeing it, we've got carpet that it actually looks like a rug that's going wall to wall, because it's sort of bunched up there on the left hand side. So I don't think that's fully installed carpet, but that doesn't look like particularly thick. And even if it were, we definitely are getting some noticeably strong reflections in this room. These are some very flat, very plain walls that we've got going on in this room. And you don't have to go insane, right? If you can get to as much as 10% of the total surface area of this room. Now, that's 10% covered in bass traps. The bass traps don't necessarily have to be in the corners. They don't have to straddle the corners. It's a geometric advantage in that you can cover more surface area with effectively thicker panels by straddling a corner, and that doesn't have to be just the vertical corners in the 4 corners of the room. That can be the corners that are the wall to the ceiling or the wall to the floor, but it's not a requirement, right? Especially in a smaller dimension sized room like this, sometimes straddling corners is just like it looks a bit oppressive. It really makes the room feel like it's shrunk very noticeably. So I have no problem, putting up panels that are perpendicular and flat to the walls. But yes, your front wall is a prime candidate. That front wall should definitely be getting treated with as thick as you can, right? If you can do 6-inch or 8-inch thick panels, so much the better. If you get 4-inch panels, if you can give them a 2-inch air gap behind them when you mount them, that'll save you money, but effectively give you the same as a 6-inch panel. That front wall can you cover the whole thing? You're getting pretty close to what you need by doing that. He's got some space behind his seat to the back wall, but obviously a panel or two on the back wall would be beneficial as well. And then, if you're still noticing some smearing of the imaging, some reverberation in the sound, a panel or two on each side wall would be the thing to do after that. But I would definitely follow Tom's advice and do all of that before replacing the speakers, because while I don't necessarily think the B and W speakers are the last word in neutrality and transparency, they're not bad speakers. I would think that it's very possible to get them sounding quite nice.
Yeah, so I'll link up a couple of AV Gadgets articles that I wrote to kind of talk you through what the thought process here is as far as acoustically treating your room first. Too often, and we deal with this all the time on this podcast, they're like, I want better. I'm having problems with this. Should I replace it? And we're like, okay, the reason you're having problems with this isn't necessarily the this. It's everything else that affects the this. It's like, oh, my OLED, or I have this TV and I can't. I'm having problems with seeing, black level detail, and you're like, okay, what kind of TV you have? I have an OLED. Should I get a different one? Like, okay, wait a second, something else is going on here.
Yeah.
Like, your speakers are not bad, and they're appropriate sized from what we can see.
Yeah.
So that makes me think that there's something else going on. So just upgrading the speakers isn't going to maybe change. Maybe it will. But if it is, it's because you got lucky. What you really should be doing is addressing all the rest of the things that are affecting the sound.
Yes.
Just like if the person is like, I can't see black detail, well, let's go into your settings and see how you have everything set up. Do you have a window that's right to the side, and you always watch during the day, and it's always, you don't have any blinds or anything, and it's just always shining light on your TV. There's a lot of things that could be affecting why you're not seeing the black detail that you want to. Just like for you, there's a reason why you're not hearing what you want to hear. It isn't necessarily the speakers. A lot of other things that affect that. So let's address those things first.
If I'm recalling correctly, he used to have his home theater set up in his living room, and now he's moved it to this much smaller enclosed spare bedroom. Like the notion that I got used to the way things sounded in my living room, I like the way it sounded in there, and now I've come into a much smaller, much obviously more enclosed, much more reflective, hard surface room, and the sound doesn't sound as good to me anymore. I'm like, that's not a surprise. Now, all of that said, treat the room first. Our advice is even more clear now. Now that we see the room, we're even more adamant about that is the first thing that you should do. That is where your money should be spent first. That all said, if you do treat the room, and like I say, you don't have to go nuts, but basically cover as much of that front wall as you can, couple of panels on the back, maybe a panel or two on the side walls, and you'll be good to go, as long as they're about 4 inches thick. Don't cheap out and go for 1 inch thick, and even 2 inch thick. It becomes a little bit uneven in what it accounts for. It takes out the treble and a tiny bit of the upper mid range, and then it doesn't address a lot of the other issues in the room. So go as thick as you can. But after you've done that, I'm not going to say it's not possible to hear a difference with different speakers versus the speakers that you have. This is a case where I'm like, oh, you could get different sounding speakers. That is a possibility here. But it doesn't change my recommendations one iota. I still think the SVS Primes, getting the Prime Center and the Prime bookshelves up front, would be a perfect match, and they'd be very appropriate for this room size and distance. So that still ends up being my top recommendation there.
Infinite Gary. Last week, Rob half joked about Gary having the OLED light setting on his LG C6 set to 4 out of 100. But that was actually pretty darn close to being spot on. It's not the flex you think it is, Gary. Naturally, he's had that OLED display professionally calibrated, and Gary insisted that he wanted SDR to strictly target 100 nits peak white, no brighter, which is calibrator obliged. That resulted in the OLED light setting being set to 5 out of 10. So
I was way off.
25% higher than Rob said. Now, despite Gary having insisted that he wanted 100 nits peak white, which officially is the industry standard for a mastering monitor in a dark studio, his room is not exactly lit exactly the way a dark studio would be. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The room has windows with shades over them, and he keeps closed, but it's no means bright, but it also isn't dark. It's basically like a fully overcast day. Anyways. That might typically mean going a few clicks up on the OLED light setting to boost the peak white a bit in order to compensate for there being some ambient light. But for Gary, if you were going to adjust the professionally calibrated OLED light setting at all, he'd click it down. Still too bright.
So much room to go down.
So with Rob having just at 4 out of 100, he went ahead and tried that, and he's not sure if it's actually better or worse. And we have pictures. I don't know how we're supposed to be able to see anything on
this
these
is literally taken by a camera and then compressed into whatever format, sent via email. I've taken it. I've cropped, or not necessarily cropped it, but scaled it so that it's the scale that shows up correctly on the display here. Through StreamYard stream that then gets recorded, and then I edit it in a program, and then I put it onto YouTube, and then they apply all of their compression, and you're watching in whatever resolution and then seeing it on your screen. So, through all that, through all of those variables, let's evaluate.
Image 1, which I guess is the one with the cooking thing where looks like she's gagging on a sandwich. I don't know what's happening.
She just took a bite, it seems. Kind of an orange background, one woman prominently displayed in the image.
Is the OLED light setting to 5 where the calibrate had it put? Image 2, why wouldn't you take the same picture?
I guess he didn't pause.
I don't know why you would not pause. Anyways, image 2 is with it just down to 4. Both pics are from the show Unique Suites. When we say the second pic looks too dim now,
absolutely no idea.
Yes, it's terrible.
Haven't a clue.
It is awful, and you should definitely set it up to 6 now. I'll throw them off. How can we know, my man?
Yes.
How can we?
As I described, so many variables that we have gone through. There's absolutely no way we could evaluate
this. I have
this image.
2 studio lights shining in my eyes right now in order for you guys to be able to see me on this screen. And I'm looking at it on a laptop, which is set to I don't care.
Yeah.
That's what it's set to. Whatever came out of the box, I probably did that. I probably made very little changes to the display settings on this thing because I have no time for that nonsense.
I'm using 2 monitors, and the colors of the skin tones look wildly different between my 2 monitors because I haven't calibrated them. This is purely for function and not for any kind of calibration and evaluation.
Read text. Everything else is don't care.
We can see, though, that there's actually a window reflection in that second image. It's right there.
Is there?
Gary's room. Yes, on the woman on the right, or our right, screen right, right above her eyes on her forehead there. There's a reflection.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
No, I can't see.
It's not just highlights in her hair. It's a reflection.
See, I'm seeing an image embedded in a Google Doc.
Aren't you, though? And that's been scaled way down so as not to take up too much space in that half-screen Google Doc that we're using. Yes, the number of variables and translations just makes this completely, utterly impossible for us to make any sort of evaluation. But in broad general terms, we know, because we've been talking to Infinite Gary for ages and ages now, big plasma fan, right? And remains a big plasma fan. He would still have, if that were possible, to get a plasma large enough and up to date enough, then that is absolutely the way that Gary would prefer to go. And I don't have any beef with that. Plasmas notoriously, almost all of them struggled to hit 100 nits. It was very common for plasmas to top out at 60, 70, maybe 80 nits. That was the brightest peak white that they could display. And if we were talking full field, right, the entire screen lit up all at once with peak white, definitely not hitting 100 nits. Sometimes below 50 nits, sometimes closer to 40 or 30 nits. So in that sense, plasmas back in the day were closer to about the light levels you might be getting in a cinema, right? With a full projection setup in a cinema, the light from the screen was not completely dissimilar from the plasmas back in the day, except that the plasmas had better black levels than your local cinema did with its projection setup and its, exit lights that never get turned off. So, if that's what you're used to, I mean, look, I'm going to say, if you put up 100 nits, full field, right? 100 nits across the entire screen of a flat panel, and I was just watching a normally lit scene, or let's say an outright dark scene, and looking at shadow detail, I'm going to squint, right? Maybe not for a tremendously long amount of time, but any of us are going to squint. It is enough of a difference that our pupils cannot remain at exactly the same opening that they were. There's enough difference between, 0.01 of a nit and 100 nits that our pupils have to close down a little bit when that happens. And there's going to be that moment where you squint at it a little bit. And we know Gary doesn't like that. He doesn't like that experience of feeling as though his eyes mildly are in discomfort, that he has to squint a little bit. And so, topping it out at like around 50 nits is not completely insane if that's the effect you're going for. It's why many people still prefer the projection setup, because that's the experience that they're having.
Yeah. Okay. If you really want us to come and look at your stuff, dude, you're going to have to donate a large amount of money and then also send us plane tickets because we have to pay for us to be gone and all these other things. And then we will go look at your setups and give you our opinions. And
can you imagine if we didn't say it's the best thing we've ever seen, Tom? What are we in for?
I'm not going. I will tell you that right now. I'm not going to go because invariably I'm going to get in a fight. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean like at some point I'm going to get exasperated and be like, hey, we're splitting hairs. This doesn't look significantly enough difference for us to discuss. Why are you worried about this? What is the different? Well, I mean, I want to have the best. I'm like, okay, well, that's the best. And guess what? The other one, also the best. It's the best. They're both the best. Like 4 to 5, they're both they're the same. They're functionally identical. It might be a little bit different, but not enough for anybody to really care. So I don't mean that in a bad way for Gary. I just like invariably I am not. I just don't think that that it's worth getting this to the minutia of this. We need this podcast is more about getting the 95%. Like okay. Maybe even 90%.
I can get behind that. We get pretty nitty gritty sometimes. So I'm not going to say we don't get into the minutia around here.
We do, but minutia is going in and finding a setting that's turned off your surround sound. You know what I mean? That's our minutia. Paul watched our interview with Michael Cobb from Kaleidoscape, in which we talked about their new 4K cinematic format that delivers full 444 signals with no chroma subsampling. Sorry, but as he understands it, Paul's LG G Series OLED converts all incoming signals to 444 prior to displaying them anyways. Is that not the case? And if it is the case, then when it comes to Kaleidoscape's 4K cinematic format, are we only talking about a measurable difference but not an actually noticeable one? So 444, think of 444 as uncompressed. It's the way I kind of think
as far
about
as color goes. Yes, you have the exact same resolution of color as you do black and white. Whereas normally, virtually all of the video signals we've been watching up until now, the signal itself, like what was on the disc or what is coming across the stream or what is in your download, in virtually all of those, the color information we were seeing was at half or very commonly 1/4 of the resolution versus the black and white information. And that wasn't like by accident. Yeah. It was to service using less bandwidth. It was so that we could use less data, have lower bandwidth streams. That absolutely was the goal of reducing the resolution of the color in the signal. But through actual experimentation with real live people and viewers, it wasn't purely theoretical. It was basically like how much can we turn down the resolution before anybody notices? It wasn't done by complete accident. And so, yes, it turns out that our visual system is much more attuned to contrast in general, the difference between bright and dark. That's what our visual system clues into the most and the fastest. And color information, you can fudge that quite a bit because actually our brain does a lot of like interpolating. Our brain makes up a lot of what we perceive.
We see that all the time in all those things that people post on like Facebook or like when you look at this side of the image, what do you see? What in your peripheral vision do you see? You see that all the time.
Yeah. So basically, as long as you give our actual eyeballs enough information, our brain puts together and goes, oh, well, that is the thing I'm looking at. Whether you could pixel for color cone in your eye correlate. It's like, that doesn't really matter. What matters is what does our brain perceive? And it turns out that through experimentation, you can turn down the color resolution quite a bit. So in terms of our LG OLEDs, converting all incoming signals to 444 prior to display. Well, in fact, all digital displays, not just OLEDs, LCDs, DLPs, all digital displays convert all incoming signals. Doesn't matter what the signal is, it converts all of them eventually to RGB. because what you have in all digital displays are red, green, and blue subpixels. Now, in some case, there's a fourth subpixel. Could be white, could be yellow, could be cyan. In some cases, there's fifth or sixth subpixels. And so the processors have to be programmed to work specifically for that. But red, green, blue, you can count on those three primaries being in all digital displays. And ultimately, the display has to have a set of instructions that say, hey, you red subpixel number 1, you turn on this much, and you green subpixel number 2, you turn on this much, and you blue subpixel number 3, you turn on this much. And so it has to convert everything eventually into an RGB signal. RGB uses exactly the same amount of data as a YCBCR 444 signal. YCBCR is a translation of RGB. It says instead of red, green, and blue being the 3 parts of my signal, I have black and white, and then I have the difference between green and blue and the difference between red, green and red. And it's a color difference signal, and then you can make those color portions half the resolution of the black and white or 1/4 the resolution of the black and white. In fact, you could lower it even more, but we found experimentally lowering it more than 1/4 of the resolution, we start to actually being able to notice in our human brains. So that's where they landed on the 420. It's a weird way of numbering it in the nomenclature, but that's ultimately what it means. So yes, all signals are being converted to not necessarily 444 YCBCR, but they are being converted to something that is exactly the data equivalent of that in full-on RGB, just in order to be able to display it. That's the only way it can happen. But that doesn't
it's all
mean
displays. It's not just
all
LGs.
digital displays. All digital displays, not just OLEDs. So there's the question of, okay, so that means all digital displays are interpolating the color at some point, right? You're getting 1 actual pixel of color information for every 4 pixels that are on the display itself. What does it do? Does it just make all 4 of those pixels the same color? Because we got 1 pixel of color information, and then I have 4 pixels to light up with that information. Do I just make them all the same color? Well, we actually have the full resolution black and white. So even if we make them all the same color, they're not all the same intensity because we have the black and white. So that you still see a checkerboard in there. If all 4 of those pixels are different values, you still see a checkerboard. It's just, they're all pink, but they're slightly different brightnesses of pink. And you still get that actual individual pixel information. But maybe the original signal, it was like, it's pink, it's red, it's orange, and it's a slightly different shade of pink. That was what the camera sensor in its raw uncompressed format originally captured. And if we have the signal just giving us to that, like the 4K cinematic format, well, then that's exactly what comes across, and that's exactly what we get. And you'd have to get your nose up to the screen, and even then, it can be really hard to tell apart sometimes, but you'd have to get your nose right up to the screen, and maybe you could see it, and maybe you could put a patch of 4 pixels side by side, the 420 version and the 444 version, and you go, there is a difference. It's actually there. Instead of it being 4 slightly different light intensities of the same shade of pink, it's actually slightly different colors across those 4 different pixels, and it's real, and it's there, and it's measurable, and possibly even visible to the human eye if you got your nose right up to the screen to the point that you can start seeing individual pixels. But I was kind of pleasantly surprised over on Youthman's YouTube channel. He did an experiment. It wasn't like an actual double-blind experiment. It wasn't like fully scientific rigor or anything like that, but basically just a handful of scenes shown all through Kaleidoscape, all through the same player, all through the same cables and the same display and everything. But they went ahead and showed the original 4K version from Kaleidoscape, which was in 420 chroma subsampling, and then the brand new 4K cinematic version of it with the 444 YCBCR signal. And nobody could tell them apart. There was one guy who got every single one of them right, but given that it was only 3 scenes, it's entirely possible he flipped a coin and landed heads 3 times in a row.
3 times in a row, it happens.
And I was really pleased that he was willing to put that up on his channel, and they're big Kaleidoscape backers, like a lot of people on. They're like, Like, clearly the difference isn't big enough on this 8K projector that he had showing this thing to, like, you know, really say that it's a genuine, like, night and day. Nobody could possibly mistake the two for each other. You know, multiple times some of the people were like, I thought the 4K 420 version was the better looking one, like, subjectively.
Yeah. And this is kind of goes back to the last question where I'm like, you know, getting that 90%, getting that 80% sometimes is indistinguishable from having 100%.
Yeah.
You know, in this case, you know, we know through research and testing and people's experiences and everything else that 420 is good enough. It's good enough in almost every case.
That's the right word for it.
Was that?
I said that's the right word for it. It's good enough.
Yeah. And if it's good enough and people can't notice a difference, is there a difference? Yes. Objectively.
Right. Yeah.
There's a difference. But subjectively, if you can't notice it, who cares? You know?
Well, see, like where I land on all this, and you know, there's an analogy in the audio world, right? It's like, do we need the 192 kilohertz 32-bit master file, or can you give me the 44.1 kilohertz 16-bit CD quality file? And you know, over and over again on this podcast, we're going to say, well, like, technically speaking, as long as it's mastered and you know, like authored correctly, then everything that we can perceive can be contained in that 44.116. But mistakes can be made. And like, my whole thing has been, if there's a master file, if there's a way you can just give me the master file, then I don't have to worry about there having been any conversions or anything like that. If you can just give me the master file and I can play it back, then great. Like, you know, I am very confident that you can discard and compress a whole bunch of data in that master file, and my human brain will never be able to perceive it. Yeah. But just in terms of, can you just give me the master file? Can I just play it back as is? Great. Now I don't have to think about any of that other stuff. Well, you know, 4K cinematic is not literally that. It is very much still data compressed. There is still lossy compression being applied in 4K cinematic because master files completely uncompressed, which is literally a series of 4K resolution JPEG, or not even JPEGs, raw image files. Like, it's petabytes sometimes for a single movie. It's completely ridiculous. So there's very much lossy compression being applied, but it's that much closer. It's that at least a generation or two closer to the original master file, and it's literally never been available to us as regular home consumers before. So I'm like, yeah, if you can, give it to me. Great. Sure. It's one less thing to think about.
Next, the Polyester Pimp. I wish we didn't have to say that name, but here we are. We've mentioned several times on the podcast how we don't really think there's enough of a difference between the X3900H versus the old X3800H to worry about getting the new one over the old one. And
these are tandem receivers, in case you're not familiar with the model numbers alone. Yes.
Sorry. Same goes out to the new Marantz Cinema Series 2 receiver models that we recently talked about. There just isn't very much difference compared to the models they are replacing. So, why? Why bother releasing these new receiver models? Why not wait for, say, HDMI 2.2 hardware to be ready so there can be clear feature upgrades? Or since quite a few TVs tout being able to use VRR to display games at frame rates higher than 120 frames per second, such as 144 frames per second or 165 frames per second, why not at least offer official support for that? Official support for 1440p is nice and all, but it's not even a bigger number. So what's the point here? There's a couple of things that are going on that have very little to do with the features. And one of them is people are looking for the newest thing and they want to upgrade, and they don't care that it's not that much of an upgrade. People want to buy, they don't want to buy last year's model if they're like, I'm going for a receiver. I'm going to go buy my first receiver. Should I buy a receiver model that came out this year, or should I buy a receiver model that came out last year? Well, they're going to say, I want to buy a receiver model that came out this year because it's the newest one. So why wouldn't they? And they don't really know. And I think this is my gut. This is not based on any facts. I think that if you are trying to sell, if you're just putting your product into a Best Buy or to someplace like that, and you are trying to, and you're hoping that people will push your product, there's a number of ways you can make that happen through advertising and training and paying for a bunch of stuff, or you can just put out the exact another the newest model, and people will go, "Oh, this is the newest Denon. It just came out." Mm-hmm. And now your salesperson is pushing it because it's new. And there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes here that are like psychologically based and worried about, how people shop for things and that sort of thing. But the reality is sometimes there's just not enough. Like, why didn't they include these other features? Because they did the research and went, no one cares. Or not enough people care that they're going to go out and buy these receivers. Like, are the people that are trying to get 144 frames per second or 165 frames per second shopping for receivers right now? And are they trying to put their game console or their computer or whatever this through a receiver?
Right, rather than plugging it straight into the TV and then using eARC to get the audio to the sound bar in most cases.
Yeah, sound bar in most cases. So is this really something that it's worth them spending a bunch of money to have a support for a feature that isn't actually going to sell them any more receivers? Just having the newer model name and number on it, year and model number on it, will sell more to more people than any of this other stuff that you're recommending.
I'm going to argue it's not even that. I'm going to argue it's a little bit like how how when like two TV shows come out and they have like a really similar plot thing that happens.
Yeah.
And people
or
are
movies. Like, we've seen movies come out when they're like, they're both movies based on the same story, like a Peter Pan story or something like that. You'll see
they both came out in the same year, but one of them came out 2 months before the other one. And there are people who say, well, the second one copied the first one. As like, no, because both of those movies took 3 to 7 years in some cases to make. They didn't see it 2 months ago and make it and release it in the theater. And when it comes to AV receivers, like in the case of Denon, they're on a 3-year product cycle, which is actually more rapid than a lot of other AV receiver manufacturers that are still left these days. Like, it's been longer than that for Yamaha, right? It's been longer than 3 years.
Yamaha takes a lot longer than Denon does to put out new models. Yeah.
And so, but Denon and Marantz, because they do work side by side, they have a 3-year product cycle. And the products that are coming out today, like the X3900H, they didn't even start designing those 3 years ago. They started designing those 6 years ago. The X3900H began its development 6 years ago. And so HDMI 2.2 literally didn't exist back then. And could they forecast that maybe it will? Not with enough certainty of, in the year 2026, when we are projecting to release this new AV receiver, is it going to be something we can put in there? If it exists, is it going to be affordable? Like, they have to go on predictable projections. This is why everything with global trade and tariffs and everything we haven't felt the impact yet.
Yeah.
Because so much of our consumer goods relies on predictability. That is tremendously important. And stuff is not being planned last year to release this year. It was being planned 3, 6, sometimes 10 years ago they began the development process. And the stuff that is in the X3900H that you can buy today did not exist 6 years ago when they first began designing it, but they had enough of a predictable projection roadmap that they can be like, okay, there's gonna be DACs that we can buy from the companies that we deal with on a regular basis. And they're telling us, the DACs that we're gonna have available to you in 2024 when we begin physical production of the 2026 AV receivers, like, here are the specs that they're gonna have, because they started designing those 4, 5, 6 years before they started manufacturing the DACs. Like, so there's all this lead time that goes into it. And ultimately what happened was we went through a little period between 3 and 6 years ago where not a whole lot changed. There wasn't a ton that changed. Could Denon have decided at that point, well, let's not even bother then. Let's just wait. Well, they have staff. They have a product roadmap. They have their release cycle. They're essentially going to stick to it. And sometimes it just turns out, because of all of these things that take place basically over the course of a decade, or at least half a decade in advance, it's like, well, that's what's available. Here's what we can buy en masse. Why are they even bothering replacing the X3800H? Well, because the DACs that they put in the X3800H, those aren't being made anymore. The DACs that are in the 3900H, that's what's being manufactured beginning 2 years ago. Like, that's what's what's physically available. So do we give it the same model name and do a running order change that we don't tell anybody about, that they actually have different DACs in there now, even though we're going to argue it doesn't make a lick of difference perceptibly? The model number on the DAC chip, if somebody opened it up, they're going, they made a change and they didn't tell anybody about it. Or can they simply label it an X3900H like they always plan to and be like, hey, it's got some new DACs in it. Sell it that way, salesperson, which is exactly what's going on. So I think we have to be fair to them, right? We have to be fair and realize that this stuff is not decided a year ago. It's decided many more years than that. That's what's going on with that.
Yeah, for sure. So we might have some disturbance here. My wife just got home from, I don't know, the dog is very scared because there's thunder going on, so she's been trying to jump on my lap.
Fair.
We'll see there may be some barking. Michael in Newfoundland, plus a comment from Joe Kluznik. Despite the correction we talked about earlier regarding WiiM being able to provide that 5.1 setup, Michael agreed overall with our advice to him last week, and he's leaning pretty darn strongly towards getting the Denon X1800H Panoramic Monitor SE speakers and the Tone Winner sub that we recommended. But one more question has come to mind. That Denon X1800H came out all the way back in 2023. By technology standards, he chuckles at it, but isn't that kind of old?
These two questions tie nicely together back to back.
Any chance he's going to regret purchasing dated tech when the plans is to hold on to the new system for many more years to come? He might want to dip his toe into trying Atmos at some point. Nope. No, that's not how we buy gear.
The height virtualization, my man, the height virtualization, that by all means give that a try, because it's a setting you can turn on and off.
Or maybe experiment with expanding to a 7.1 setup, but at the same time, he's got a pretty strict budget to consider. On that subject, Joe Kluznik wanted to weigh in. He just wanted to say that when it comes to putting together a home theater system on a budget, he always likes to recommend buying speakers that can do the job well enough right now, but can also be easily repurposed in the future. One of his favorite examples is the SVS Prime Satellite package. It's a great little starter system right away, and when the Prime Satellites are so easy to move or mount in the future. Use them as surround backs when you buy bigger, better front speakers. Use them as heights or on-ceiling Atmos speakers. And if you work your way all the way up to the quad SB1000 Pro subs at some point, they're a lot more capable than they might look at first. So it's just something he wanted to pass along to Michael. The Paradigm Monitor SE Atom bookshelf speakers also fit this description. So even if Michael eventually finds himself wishing his front speakers were a little bit, just more, there's virtually no risk in buying them now because they're so easy to repurpose as surround backs or heights. And then you're never feeling as though you wasted your money in initial purchase. So let's talk about the receiver to start with.
Okay.
So you never, in my years and years of experience buying things for many different things, couches, cars, bikes, the whole night, just computers. You never buy something based on what you think you might do. Because chances are you won't do it. And more importantly, if you do decide to do it, by the time you decide to do it, what you bought is not what you need.
And we're not saying this as a accusatorial thing.
No.
Tom and I both have this experience. Both of us have definitely bought items at one point that were considerably more expensive and more feature rich than what we were actually going to deploy on the day that we bought it, with the notion of, I'm going to use these expanded capabilities in the future, and I don't want to feel as though I missed out. I don't want that FOMO, that fear of missing out. So I'm going to pay more and get more now that I'm actually going to use today. This is from firsthand experience. We have both definitely done this.
Firsthand experience.
More than once. We didn't learn this lesson the first time, either of us.
So, you might want to do 7.1. You might want to do Atmos. But by the time you actually get around to doing that, there's going to be something else that you also want, and your receiver won't have it. That's just all there is to it.
Sure.
Buy it for what you're going to use it for right now. Save that money. Take whatever that money is that you might want to expand your budget into and put it someplace. Yeah, I mean, you won't do this. No one does this. But you should, in your mind, say, I have saved $500. I was going to buy the more expensive one. It was $500 more. That $500 is going to go towards my next receiver purchase when it comes time for it. Because chances are you're never going to do the thing you're talking about. And if you do the thing you talk about, it's what you have will not be appropriate or won't be what you will want to use for it. Because if you'll do it and you go, but there's this new receiver that's out that also does this other thing that I wanted to do. And it does the thing that I'm doing with this old receiver better, theoretically, than, whatever. So just buy the receiver we told you to buy. Now, as far as speakers are concerned, Joe is very right, very correct. And most of our recommendations on this podcast are such that you can take your speakers that we recommend you buy, and you can look back on every single speaker we've recommended so far, this podcast and just about any other podcast, and say, hey, will this speaker play well with other speakers? The answer is almost always yes, because all the speakers that we recommend are pretty neutral and will, generally speaking, you will be able to say, okay, well, I'm getting new speakers in this new room that are bigger, whatever, but I have all these old speakers that I bought based on Rob and Tom's suggestions, but they're too small for this room that I'm in, so I need tower speakers or something up front. What am I going to do with these other ones? We're going to be like, hey, you just put them closer to you, so they're now surround speakers. So Joe's right. You can take... A lot of your speaker purchase can be such that you can buy something that's appropriate for your room right now, with the thought that if I move to a bigger room or if I decide to do something else, I can put them in this other space and have them work just fine. And the suggestions, the paradigms that you're looking at, or the prime satellite speakers, or even the bookshelf speakers, which are pretty small anyways, you can take those and use those as surrounds later on if you wanted to.
Or thanks to products like WiiM, like how many people I wouldn't mind having a small, unobtrusive, attractive looking pair of speakers in the kitchen. Never had them before, really wouldn't mind it. It's like, well, I just replaced my front, Monitor SE Atom Paradigm speakers. I have those pair available to me now. I add a WiiM amp for not a ton of money, and all of a sudden I can have a very nice sounding, very nice looking, compact little system in another room, like the kitchen, maybe in a bathroom for all, it's one of those things you thought of and you go, well, it doesn't cost a whole lot and I can repurpose something I already own. So yeah, totally agree there on the speaker side of things. Totally makes sense. And don't overbuy your speakers for a room that doesn't exist yet. There's really no need to do that. You can have very capable smaller speakers when you're starting out in the smaller room. As for this particular case of AV receiver, we just talked about it. Refer back to the last question if you skipped here first. We happen to be in a period where, honestly, from the X1700H to the 1800H to the hasn't yet released, but I'm assuming there's a 1900H on the way because there was a S980H, which is almost exactly the same thing. And that one came out, but, they haven't released the 1900H just yet. There's kind of been a plateau across those 6 years. Going from the first one to just now. There hasn't been a tremendous amount of change. So we happen to have hit one where you can get the older model without giving up any significant features and save yourself a pile of money because it is older. That's not always going to be the case. In this particular case, it is absolutely the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously. Anonymous. So all of the usual suspects when it comes to streaming video service, they heavily compress the video, and that saves on bandwidth for transmitting all of that data over the internet, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah.
They do pay for bandwidth. All Netflix and Disney Plus and all of they pay for bandwidth. So if they can send you lower bandwidth, less data, it actually does save them money.
Sure. So folks will often point out how the bitrate of Ultra HD Blu-rays is so much higher than streaming, and then a company like Kaleidoscape markets how their movies use so much less compression, offer you so much higher bit rates, even surpassing physical discs when it comes to file size for a movie. Mm-hmm. But on a technical level, is there anything actually stopping, say, Apple Movies from offering the option to download their movies at full disc-like bit rates and then playing back those files on the exact same hardware we already have for streaming purposes? Could say Netflix or Disney Plus do the exact same thing. So what is their reason for not offering downloads as an option? It doesn't have to replace streaming for convenience, and they could justifiably charge more if you want to download a movie in higher quality. So is it actually not possible for some reason, or are they just choosing not to offer it as an option? There's probably a lot. There's probably more than one. There's probably more than one factor that goes into answering this question, and not all those factors are things that we know about.
True. I agree.
My answer would be, at least for many of the streaming services, they don't necessarily have the original full bandwidth master. Like Netflix is not getting from all the other studios out there the originals, I don't think.
We actually asked Michael Cobb from Kaleidoscape about this, and he didn't know exactly what the other services are getting. He suspects that obviously for like Netflix produces their own content in some cases, so they're going to have the master files for that.
Right.
But in terms of what they get from the movie studio, like there's a whole bunch of movies on Netflix that are 1080p max, no HDR, 5.1 audio, and it's like obviously the 4K HDR Atmos version exists. It's available on other services or to purchase, as a digital or as a physical disc. It's like obviously that file exists, so it's unlikely that Netflix was like, well, you gave us a file that included 4K and HDR and Atmos, but we only decided to offer our customers the 1080p STR 5.1 version. Like, now, they probably got a file that limited them to that. And then, yes, they do recompress it because they make a gazillion different versions. When you change resolutions or audio tracks on the fly, it's not actually the same stream with a change made to it. It's a full-on different stream that begins seamlessly that's going over there. So they're making a gazillion different versions of everything that they stream on their service. But yeah, in those cases like that, they're almost certainly getting a limited file from the studio to begin with.
Yeah. And even if, so you're like, okay, well, what about Apple? Apple has got infinity money and everything. They're in the same situation. They have their own content that they provide, but most of the things that they get it from somebody else, and whatever format they get that in. And I think it's a very good point that Rob's pointing out here, that it's not that you tell your box, hey, I want to do stereo only audio, and then it's like it gets the Atmos or whatever that's coming from Disney Plus, and then down converts it to stereo. That's not what's happening. It basically kicks it back over to Disney Plus and says, hey, send me the stereo one because that's what he wants. And then it flips it on the fly. So you're talking about not just storage options here, but there's just so many different versions that are out there. And they have to have the ability to store all these things. So you have, now you want them to have uncompressed, the original uncompressed movie in storage someplace so that people can download it. I just don't necessarily think that makes financial sense to them. Like, why would you do that when that's not what their service is about?
Yeah,
their service is
he
about
is asking,
streaming.
is there a purely technical reason why it cannot be done? And I wouldn't say that. Like, there's nothing about an Apple TV 4K, the piece of hardware that we're using to stream Apple TV or a whole bunch of other streaming services. Like, it's not that it cannot output a higher bit rate 4K HDR Atmos signal. Like, it absolutely can. You can use it as a Plex playback device. You can use it as other playback software, just playing your local media that is at a much higher bit rate than what you're getting via the streaming service. So no, there is not a hardware limitation on, say, the Apple TV 4K or the NVIDIA Shield or even a Roku or an Amazon Fire TV device for that matter. It's not, that isn't like the literal technical bottleneck that wouldn't allow a higher bitrate version to play. So on that level, it's possible. Could Apple let you download higher bitrate, larger file sizes? Yes, on a technical level, obviously that is a possible thing that they can do, which all leads us to surmise that it is a business proposition, that the main reason that they're not doing it. And look, I give Apple a fair amount of credit on the whole. I bought a 1080p version 12 years ago.
Right.
And, last week they made available a 4K HDR Atmos version, and I didn't have to pay any extra. I already own the 1080p version in my Apple Movies library, and there it is available in 4K HDR now. Like, I give them some credit for that. Now, is that exactly the same quality as that movie is now available from Kaleidoscape or on the brand new physical disc release that probably went along with the reason why that version of the movie exists now? No, it isn't. It is more heavily compressed. It is definitely 420 chroma subsampled. It is more highly data compressed. There is more actual loss to the signal that went on. Could, on a technical level, Apple compress it to the same level that Kaleidoscape does, or the same level that's on an Ultra HD Blu-ray? Like, yes, they have that capability. They could, on a technical level, store that somewhere. They have other storefronts where you purchase things like iTunes, so you absolutely could, on a technical level, do the same thing that Kaleidoscape does from Apple. Like, there's no technical limitation preventing them outright from doing that. But yes, it becomes a whole business proposition. Like, Kaleidoscape is a small company. Like, compared to Apple, my goodness, are they a blip that barely even registers? So, they have a completely different business model that's going on there, and they're definitely not making the sort of revenue that Apple is making. And when we talked about how, like, that in the streaming services, it saves them money to send you fewer bits. They are paying for bandwidth, and it saves them money. Same thing applies for if I purchase a movie and there's the option of it remains on their servers in this much more data compressed, smaller file size, and I stream it on demand, and they've got all the infrastructure already set up for that. And they don't just store one copy of that movie on one hard drive on one server farm in one location. Netflix did this to the maximum, but they distribute that. They have oodles of copies of that movie all over every country, closer to internet nodes, so that you can start streaming it that much faster. And, people don't like waiting for the wheel to spin like it used to when streaming began. And so they've got this mass distribution, all of this infrastructure, all of it contingent on sending you as few bits as they can get away with. If they start offering much larger file size, much higher bit rate, only available via download because it isn't really viable to stream it at that high bit rate, at least not, consistently and reliably. Well, like, what is the business case for that, right? Kaleidoscape is trying to make a go of it. It's like, we're always a little bit like wondering, like, are they going to make it? Are they going to have to start charging more? Like, it would kind of be fair if they did. Apple could obviously afford it, right? Apple could easily afford it much more than Kaleidoscape could, but they don't make the business case for it. Like, we can send you way fewer bits and nobody's complaining about the image quality, so we're fine with that.
Yeah, I mentioned on this podcast the other day before the Kaleidoscape interview that I was talking with my wife about it, and I explained what Kaleidoscape's business model was. Yeah. And her reaction was, why? Like, why? Why would anybody want that? And I told you guys I was last weekend or whatever it was, I was with some friends, and he had the same conversation with his wife. And his wife had the exact same reaction. And it's not like this is a male-female thing. It's a into home theater versus not that much into home theater thing. Like, doesn't mind enjoying and sitting in the home theater and can appreciate that the sound in the picture is better versus somebody who's worried about whether or not they should have a 4 or a 5 on their brightness for their OLED thing. And I get it. I get that. I get why people who aren't like really into home theater look at Kaleidoscape and these other things and be like, why would I want that? Why would I pay extra for something that maybe doesn't even look that much better?
I've got to wait at least 10 minutes before I can watch it. Yeah.
Why, when I can just press play and it just plays on the other thing, and I can
skip around from movie to movie, scene to scene, and it's very convenient. I look at it and I go, I'm watching this on my edge lit LCD, and I think it looks pretty darn good.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I totally understand that. And if there were a big enough demand, first of all, Kaleidoscape would be a huger company. Let's just start right there. Yes. Kaleidoscape would be much better. It's not like they're new. Not like they're a startup that just started. They've been around. Well, like, they've been trying to make this work.
We've just had these questions about the 4K cinematic, and people rightly questioning, like, is this actually visible? Like, Kaleidoscape is the only company where it makes sense to release that format because they already only sell to a niche market.
Yeah.
And that niche market is, the Venn diagram is a perfect circle of people who will have FOMO about not getting the newest, bestest format, whether it's really visible to our human eyes or not. That's the crowd that's going to be like, wait a second, there's something technically even better and I don't have it.
I think the Kaleidoscape, the Kaleidoscape circle, people who want Kaleidoscape, right,
Yes.
Is a bigger circle than the circle of people who care about whether or not they're getting 444.
4K cinematic, okay.
Yeah, those 444 people are inside of Kaleidoscape, no doubt about it, right? They may be a little bit outside, but they're mostly inside of Kaleidoscape. But there's a whole group of people that have Kaleidoscape who are like, I just have it because it's expensive. Right. And then all my rich friends have it on their yachts. Or I care about the interface.
Could you imagine for just the pure business logistics for Apple? Like, again, Apple could afford it because they have so much money. But the pure business logistics of, we have a subscription streaming service, and almost everybody definitely feels that that's good enough and everything plays instantly. And then you actually can download the movies you buy from Apple Movies, right? That is an option. You can download them, but for some reason they do limit it to 1080p SDR. They don't offer 4K HDR versions for download, and I think that's just storage on there. But they just don't want to spend the money. But you have, let's say that did become available, the download option for 4K HDR with Atmos, but it takes a bunch of storage space and they have to charge extra. And then on top of that, they have their super duper format, which is 4K HDR with 444 instead of 420, and there's an additional separate purchase for that. It's like, again, Kaleidoscape is already targeting enough of a niche market that they're going to find the handful of people in the world who care and are willing to figure out what all of that means. But Apple is trying to target the widest buyers, the widest demographics that they possibly can, and trying to walk everybody through that progression. It's like, it just isn't worth their time and money. Even though they have all the money, it's not worth their time and money to go down that route.
Yeah. All right. You have to go, right?
I do.
Yeah. So we have one question left, but it's stupidly large.
I mean, so much of that is just images that I captured from his Room EQ Wizard measurements as far as the scrolling length goes. But that is Miguel. He did send that question in on Monday, so I don't feel too guilty that we're waiting until next week to dig into Miguel's Room EQ Wizard measurements.
All right. So Miguel, we'll get to you next week.
We shall.
If you want to get your... No, wait. How do we do this? We want to thank our listeners of the week.
Listeners, yeah.
We want to thank Bill for going to avrant.com, clicking on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and sending us a PayPal donation, as well as our 119 patrons over on patreon.com, including the exact same Bill. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, Bill, thanks so much for that PayPal donation and for that note that you sent as well. Very nice of you. And patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thanks to our 119 patrons over there. And Bill, thank you for being one of them.
We also want to thank Michael, Karl, and Anonymous for sending us notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going. Thank you very much for thanking us.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that is Michael and Karl and Anonymous once again. Thank you very much for the notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really do appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
If you want to get your question answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com.
Nobody saw that on the YouTube.
No one saw it, but I hit the heck
out
of the microphone. I don't know how I did that. For AVRant, I'm Tom Andrew.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.